this lecture, the major segments of a scientific presentation will be described, followed by some practical advice on how to prepare and then give a PowerPoint presentation. The major segments of a research presentation are very similar to the major segments of a research paper. The body of a research paper and presentation can be the same, but the front and end matter are somewhat different. The front matter in a briefing typically consists of a title slide, list of team members, acknowledgments to others who supported the research, and perhaps a talk outline, which is optional. This is followed by the body of the talk, which is identical in outline to the research paper, but with some differences in emphasis and detail. The end matter in the presentation is totally different than the research paper. The acknowledgments have been moved to the front matter, and there are no references. Those interested can look at the references in the paper. A final Q&A slide invites questions. The title slide should usually have the same title as the research paper. If the research paper's title is long, the talk title could be shortened. As described in the Learning Unit on Writing Papers, the title should be concise, suggest the contribution the research is making to the scientific community, hit a key point or two, and alert the audience on what to expect. On the title slide, the title can be superimposed on a background photograph that itself makes a key point or sets the stage for the talk. For instance, if the talk is about double stars, a photograph or artist's drawing of a double star could provide the background. Sometimes the team members or paper authors are listed on the title slide. If not part of the title slide, the team members, the authors of the paper that the talk summarizes, should be listed on the second slide, often along with their institutions. As mentioned in the Learning Unit on Writing the Paper, the team members are any individuals who contributed significantly to a research project. The order of the team members on this slide should be the same as in the paper, usually regardless of who is giving the presentation. The affiliation of each team member or group of team members should be given below their names. These affiliations may be schools, corporations, branches of government, or nonprofits, and should be the same as in the paper. The acknowledgments are best given near the beginning of the talk, not at the end, as is the case for the paper. It is appropriate to thank those who contributed to the project, but were not team members per se. As in the paper, anyone who reviewed the paper should be included along with any advisors. Most importantly, any person or organization that supplied funding, materials, or facilities needs to be recognized. Acknowledgments may just be said verbally without a listing on a slide. Alternatively, they may be listed along with the team members, perhaps in smaller type, or even have their own slide. An outline of the talk is an optional slide. The introduction often puts the current research in an historical and theoretical context. Keep in mind that even more so than in a paper, the audience may not have much background in this field, so the stage needs to be set for them. The introduction describes why this particular project was done. What was its significance? Why should the audience care? The introduction should tell the reader how this research project will contribute to the field. There should be references to work others have done in the past that set the stage for the present study. The most important part of the introduction, though, is the enumeration of the specific scientific research goal or goals. The equipment and procedures portion of the talk typically consists of two distinct sections, perhaps one slide for each. First, the equipment used in the project should be briefly described. This typically includes the telescope and eyepiece or camera used to make the observations, as well as the location and dates that the observations were made. A picture of the telescope with its instruments can be effective. A mention should also be made of the software used to control the telescope, camera, and to reduce the data. Details of the hardware and software do not need to be covered. If interested in the details, the audience can read the paper. Second, the methods of data collection, reduction, and calibration should be briefly summarized. Again, if interested, the individuals in the audience can read the details in the paper. As with the paper, the results section is often the shortest segment of a scientific talk. It may be tempting to begin interpreting the results in this section of the talk, but this section should only contain a summary of the measurements themselves and perhaps some mention of their accuracy and/or precision. This should just be a very high-level summary. The details should be left to the paper. Of course, raw data should not be included. The results typically include tables, images, or light curves. As with the paper, the content of the discussion section of the talk depends entirely on the research question at hand. The discussion section focuses on answering the research question. While in the paper, the discussion is usually the most technically involved section, the talk version of this section needs to be simplified considerably. Just a few highlights. In the discussion section, comparisons may be made between the present study and past observations. The last section of the talk is the research project's conclusions. The conclusions relate the results and discussion back to the goals stated in the introduction. A vital aspect of the conclusions is to avoid introducing any new information or reasoning. However, an exception is future directions and research questions. These potential areas of research should be specific rather than a general statement such as, "This double star needs more follow-up observations." The very last slide should ask if there are any questions. The slide might have a background photograph that reminds the audience of the main theme of the research, perhaps the same background as the title slide. Even better would be a montage of key photographs from the briefing. This will remind the audience of the key points made in the talk and help direct their questions to pertinent topics. Now that we are familiar with the overall structure of a scientific talk that accompanies a paper, how should a team go about preparing and presenting the talk? There are 7 considerations. Each will be discussed in detail, but here is a brief summary. Talk fundamentals lay the groundwork for a good talk. Good talks use graphics and verbal explanations and avoid using very much text. The layout of good PowerPoint slides is simple and avoids cute frills. Before your presentation, you should practice it. Make sure you have backups and be sure everything is ready. You are ready now to give your presentation. Proceed with confidence. Never, ever run over your allotted time. Never. Finally, after your talk is over, there are good ways of handling a question and answer follow-up to your talk. Get started early. Preparing good presentations takes time. Leave plenty of time for others to review your slides. Typically, you should allow 2 to 3 minutes per slide. For a 20-minute talk, leave 5 minutes for questions and answers. Thus, about 5 to 8 slides for the remaining 15 minutes. This is not very many slides. However, when it comes to presentations, less is more. Only include the most essential information. Your paper covers the details. Your audience will include folks that are not familiar with your topic. Don't snow them with jargon or acronyms. Tell a story. All good scientific papers and talks have a plot. The human mind is attuned to plots and narratives. 2 portions of the working memory of the listener's brain are processing the talk. One channel handles visual and the other channel auditory. Spoken words with pictures are much better than text. Pictures and graphics are best, although a few simple text bullets are okay. If there is text, it should be very short phrases in large, bold type laid out as brief bullets. Never ever place lots of text on the slides. Usually dark text on light background. Check spelling and grammar. Verbal explanations of pictures or graphs are much better than written explanations. Minimize distractions by not including any music or sound effects. Avoid fancy slides, fancy transitions, and clip art. They all distract the listener. Too many different fonts and colors are confusing. Practice, practice, and practice some more. This is the key to a well-delivered presentation. Practice with several different audiences if you can. Send your presentation to the host in advance and take more than 1 copy of your presentation with you. Place copies in different places, such as a thumb drive in your pocket and another one in your bag. It is difficult to give your presentation without your PowerPoint slides. On the day of your presentation, check out the room and audio-visual equipment well before your talk. It is your show, so ask for help if needed and make sure everything is ready and working. It is best to have someone else handle the equipment for you. Talk to them. Give the moderator your brief bio written out so they can properly introduce you or your team. Do not speak too fast. Slow down. Normal presentation talk speed is about 100 words per minute. Inexperienced presenters usually tend to talk too fast. Take a deep breath, relax, and slow down. Do not read your slide from the screen or your computer. Speak directly to the audience. Notes can remind you of the points you want to make. It is okay to pause and look at your notes between slides. Never read text verbatim. Don't run over your allotted time, ever. It is very disrespectful of the audience and moderator to run over. Running over suggests you think your talk is more important than other talks. Leave time for questions and answers. You care what your audience has to say. At the end of your talk, when you move into the question and answer portion, repeat and rephrase as appropriate questions from the audience. You have the mic, and by repeating the question, everyone will be able to hear it. Rephrasing the question also gives you a chance to recast the question in a more answerable form. Do not rush your answer. It is okay to pause and think about it. You do not have to answer a question that would be distracting, long and drawn out, or contentious and negative. You can tell the questioner that you will discuss it with them after the talk. If you don't know the answer, you can just say so and move on, or simply suggest you will look into it. Avoid long discussions with a single questioner, long answers, or any arguments. This is your show, not theirs. In this learning lecture, the major segments of a scientific presentation have been described. The front matter in a briefing typically consists of a title slide, a list of team members, acknowledgments to others who supported the research, and perhaps a talk outline, which is optional. This is followed by the body of the talk, which is identical in outline to the research paper, but with some differences in emphasis and detail. The end matter in a talk is totally different than a paper. The paper's acknowledgments have been moved to the front matter, there are no references, and a final Q&A slide invites questions. How should a team go about preparing the talk and then presenting the talk? There are 7 considerations. Talk fundamentals lay the groundwork for a good talk. Good talks use graphics and verbal explanations and avoid having very much text. The layout of good PowerPoint slides is simple, and the slides avoid cute frills. Before your presentation, you should practice it a number of times, make sure you have backups, and be sure everything is ready in the conference room. You are fully ready, so give your presentation with confidence. The most important thing to remember is to never ever run over your allotted time. Never. Finally, after your talk is over, remember that there are good ways of handling a question and answer session.